Hey guys, Dino DVD here, and taking a look at my top 10 albums of all time. What I've done here in this is exclude any live albums, any collections, multiple albums included in the same collection, any greatest hit packages, or any box sets, unless it's a box set that happens to just have some neat, postcards or something with it, but otherwise it's just an album. So, number 10 is by one that a lot of people probably haven't heard of. The band's called Marillion. And they are sort of a progressive sounding, poppy, melodic band. This particular album, Clutching at Straws, dealt a lot with addiction, particularly alcohol addiction, the aftermath of what that can do, and just a lot of songs about drinking, about relationships and how drinking can affect those. And the last song, called The Last Straw, a lot of these have double meanings, but it's the last straw in a lot of ways. It's the last straw in the drink, the last straw in his life. Great album. Highly recommend Marillion's Clutching at Straws, number 10. Number 9, this is a band that I'm sure everybody's heard of, U2. And I like a lot of U2's stuff, but I'm going to pick the Joshua Tree, excuse me, as the one that is going to make my top 10 list in at number 9. Where the streets have no name. I still haven't found what I'm looking for, but the one that gets me is Running to Stand Still, a song about heroin addiction, and just a beautiful melody and just a great recording. So Joshua Tree. Number 8, well, I had to go this way. I had at least one of them, and I did it on a couple. This is the Eagles' Hotel California. This album recorded right after Randy Meisner had left the band, and they went from a country-sounding band to more of a rock-sounding band. They got Joe Walsh in, so you get songs like Life in the Fast Lane on this one, and even Hotel California with the dueling guitars. Really created quite the California sound and was quite the album, and one of my favorite albums by the Eagles, or in general. Number 8. Number 7, by Elton John, Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road. Well, there's a double album, and the only double album on the top 10 as far as I can recall. Nope, I take that back as I look at what's coming up next. But at number 7, it's just got numerous great songs, great melodies, very catchy. Tough to do a double album that holds up, and this one does. And for my money, it's one of Elton John's best. It's certainly, in my opinion, it's his best. It's number 7. Number 6, the other double album, the Beatles' White Album. It's been called just the Beatles, but I think history will go down as calling it the White Album. With the exception of Revolution number 9, it does hold up quite well. Revolution number 9 is just a mishmash of weird sounds, and John Lennon saying number 9, number 9. I'll stick with Revolution, Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, Glass Onion, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and numerous others. Number 6, the Beatles' White Album. Number 5, a lot of people will probably put this one lower or not as high up, I guess, in my list, or put another Bob Dylan album up here. But for me, Blood on the Tracks is the one that I always seem to go back to. Tangled Up in Blue, Shelter from the Storm, Lily, Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts, if you want a real long one. This is just packed with songs that, for me, are poetry, are great music, and despite what people say, great vocals from Bob Dylan. Blood on the Tracks, my choice for number 5. Number 4 is one that probably makes a lot of people's lists. It's Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. For years, up until Thriller, and no, Thriller's not on my list, it was, I believe, the highest-selling album of all time, and with good reason. Both sides are just great. The music flows one to the other. It had actually a hit with Money, amazingly, even though that was part of a longer segment. They kind of flowed in from another song and then out into another song. But generally, the whole thing holds up very, very well. So I'm very impressed with, and for me, it's the number 4 song, Pink Floyd, The Dark Side of the Moon, number 4. Number 3, well, you see the picture. Everybody knows what this is without me saying anything, but I'll say it anyway. It's the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. A lot of people would have it at number 1. I have it at 3. It's a great album, though. I could easily move it to 1 and be happy. I just happen to like the first 2 albums a little bit better, but at least today, This holds up well, though. She's Leaving Home, Getting Better, A Day in the Life, Sgt. Pepper, A Little Help from My Friends. Just one song after the other, and that's true for all the albums on this, my top 10, but number 3, Sgt. Pepper. Number 2, Bruce Springsteen, Darkness on the Edge of Town. It had been 3 or 4 years since Springsteen had recorded Born to Run, his breakthrough album, and he had a lot to prove here in '78 when Darkness on the Edge of Town was planning on being released. He had been barred from the recording studio for quite a long time due to a lawsuit with his former manager, Mike Appel. But he had finally got the go-ahead to go into the studio, got John Landau to work with him, formerly the Rolling Stone critic, and just nailed an album. Darkness on the Edge of Town. Where Born to Run was hopeful, romantic, Darkness on the Edge of Town was gritty and edgy, and really focused in songs like Racing in the Street, Badlands, Prove It All Night, just one after the other. Great album. However, the number 1 album for me is also by Bruce Springsteen, and it is his romantic album, Born to Run. He said he wanted to write an album that sounded like something that Phil Spector could have produced, that had just these great guitars, and he wanted to sing like Roy Orbison. Well, he couldn't sing like Roy Orbison, but he sang pretty good for my book. He of course wrote all the songs, which big deal for me is if a person writes the songs, and he certainly did. So Born to Run is on this album, as is Night, 10th Avenue Freeze Out, Back Streets, Jungle Land. The list goes on and on and on. In fact, there's not a bad song on this album, and between the guitars, the rock anthems, and just the romanticism of the whole thing, my number 1 album is Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen. Well, that's it, guys. I'd like to hear what you got. I'm sure I left off The Who, The Doors, Nirvana, Led Zeppelin. Tell me what you think, guys.